Mexico City, Associated Press. Claudia Sheinbaum was sworn in Tuesday as Mexico's first female president, riding the enthusiasm over her predecessor's social programs, but also facing challenges that include stubbornly high levels of violence. After a smiling Sheinbaum took the oath of office on the floor of Congress, legislators shouted, "Presidenta! Presidenta!" using the feminine form of president in Spanish. For the first time in over 200 years of Mexico's history as an independent country, the 62-year-old scientist-turned-politician receives a country with a number of immediate problems, also including a sluggish economy, unfinished building programs, rising debt, and the hurricane-battered resort city of Acapulco. In her speech, Sheinbaum said that with her arrival come all of the women who have struggled in anonymity to make their way in Mexico, including those who dreamed of the possibility that one day, no matter if we were born as women or men, we would achieve our dreams and desires, without our sex determining our destiny. She made a long list of promises to limit prices for gasoline and food, expand cash handout programs for women and children, support business investment, housing and passenger rail construction. But any mention of the drug cartels that control much of the country was brief, and near the end of the list, Sheinbaum offered little change from outgoing President Andrés Manuel López Obrador's hugs not bullets strategy of addressing root causes and not confronting the cartels. Apart from pledging more intelligence work and investigation, there will be no return to the irresponsible drug war, she said. Claudia Sheinbaum, the presidential candidate of the ruling Morena party, reacts as she addresses her supporters after winning the election in Mexico City. México June 3, 2024. Reuters, Raquel Cunha. Related article. Claudia Sheinbaum promises to govern for all. Here are the challenges she'll face. Sheinbaum romped to victory in June with nearly 60% of the vote, propelled largely by the sustained popularity of her political mentor, former President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. She has pledged to continue all his policies, even those that strengthen the power of the military and weaken the country's checks and balances. López Obrador took office 6 years ago, declaring, "For the good of all, first the poor," and promising historical change from the neoliberal economic policies of his predecessors. Sheinbaum promised continuity from his popular social policies to controversial constitutional reforms to the judiciary and National Guard rammed through during his final days in office. Despite her pledge of continuity, Sheinbaum is a very different personality, a cautious scientist, an ideological university leftist, as opposed to the outgoing president's chummy, everyman appeal. López Obrador was a tremendously charismatic president, and many times, that charisma allowed him to cover up some political errors that Claudia Sheinbaum will not have that possibility of doing, said Carlos Perez Ricard, a political analyst at Mexico's Center for Economic Research and Teaching. So, where López Obrador was charismatic, Claudia Sheinbaum will have to be effective. She will wield formidable power because López Obrador's Morena party controls both houses of Congress, but the country remains deeply polarized between the outgoing president's fanatic fans and almost 1/3 of the population who deeply resent him. If we want a strong government, the checks and balances also have to be strong, said opposition Senor Maria Guadalupe Murguia, suggesting that an all-powerful army and unchecked ruling party could come back to haunt Mexico. Remember, she said, nobody wins everything, and nobody loses forever. Sheinbaum is not inheriting an easy situation. Drug cartels have strengthened their hold over much of Mexico, and her first trip as president will be to the flood-stricken Pacific Coast resort of Acapulco. Hurricane John, which struck as a Category 3, hurricane last week and then re-emerged into the ocean and struck, again as a tropical storm, caused 4 days of incredibly heavy rain that killed at least 17 people along the coast around Acapulco. Acapulco was devastated in October 2023 by Hurricane Otis and had not recovered from that blow when John hit. Sheinbaum must also deal with raging violence in the cartel-dominated northern city of Culiacan, where factional fighting within the Sinaloa cartel broke out after drug lords Ismael El Mayo, Zambada, and Joaquin Guzman Lopez were apprehended in the United States after they flew there in a small plane on July 25th. Lopez Obrador has long sought to avoid confronting Mexico's drug cartels and has openly appealed to the gangs to keep the peace among themselves, but the limitations of that strategy have become glaringly apparent in Culiacan, the capital of Sinaloa state, where gun battles have raged on the city streets. Local authorities, and even the army, which Lopez Obrador has relied on for everything, have essentially admitted that the fighting will only end when the cartel bosses decide to end it. But that's only the latest hotspot. Drug-related violence is surging from Tijuana in the north to Chiapas in the south, displacing thousands, while Sheinbaum inherits a huge budget deficit, unfinished construction projects, and a burgeoning bill for her party's cash handout programs, all of which could send financial markets tumbling. Perhaps her biggest looming concern is the possibility of a victory for Donald Trump in the November 5 U.S. presidential election.
Trump has already vowed to slap 100% tariffs on vehicles made in Mexico. Though that would likely violate the current U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, there are other things Trump could do to make life difficult for Sheinbaum, including his pledge of massive deportations. Relations with Mexico's northern neighbor were already tense after Lopez Obrador said he was putting relations with the U.S. Embassy on pause after public criticism of the proposed judicial overhaul. At her inauguration, Sheinbaum boosted the free trade agreement with the United States and Canada, saying, "We know that economic cooperation strengthens the three nations." There are areas where Sheinbaum could try to take Mexico in a new direction. For example, she has a PhD in energy engineering and has spoken of the need to address climate change. But on Tuesday, she said she would cap oil production at 1.8 million barrels per day, which would be more than what the troubled state-owned company currently produces. "We are going to promote energy efficiency and the transition toward renewable sources of energy," she said.